Woo! Uh-huh. That's right. Looking good, guys. It is a great day to be alive, isn't it?
Great tune.
It's a great day to be alive. I think today marks my 4,100th bonus day since hearing I've had 2 years, 2 months to live. So yay. Any day is a great day to be alive, no matter what we're navigating. The show is all about sharing tools of hope and resilience and inspiration to help you rise and thrive through life's hard days. And today's super guests are no exception to this. They're just absolutely incredible. Before we get into introducing them, I hope you all enjoyed the show last week with amazing Jocelyn. Gosh, she's this 11-year-old cancer warrior who has survived and thrived cancer. Her mom also joined us. It was a fabulous show. Gosh, Jocelyn just is this little superpower who had so many tools to share with you as to how you can rise through your life's hard days. And if she can do it, gosh, we can all do it, right? I also want to share our Health and Happiness Summit. We'll be launching very soon on January 13th. It'll be the first annual Health and Happiness Summit. It'll be happening live here in West Vancouver at the Kamiq Theatre. I'll be joined on stage alongside my dear friend, Dr. Gabor Mate, Dr. Jillian Hatfield, and as well as Christina Sutter, who is the dietitian for our Vancouver Canucks and Canadian Olympic athletes. It's going to be a fabulous event that will serve to inspire you to thrive and live today with more joy and a greater level of health. So please join us. We can't wait. Tickets will go on sale on November 1st. Okay, and on to today's amazing show. We have our super couple here today, Genevieve and Kirk McLean. Genevieve is a 3-time cancer survivor and riser and thriver. Gosh, she's been through so much, and yet she is still living life to the fullest as she has all through her journey. You're just going to be so inspired. If you're facing life's hard days, tune in because this show will inspire you to hold on to hope in every way. Kirk, her amazing husband, gosh, he's made Vancouver proud for years on end. He's an NHL hockey goalie who has played for the Vancouver Canucks for many years, and we're just honored to have both of them. Kirk will be sharing, how he copes as Genevieve's supporter through the background of all of this, and he has a huge role in her success too. So let's welcome both to the show. Gosh, I'm so happy to have you both here. Genevieve, Kirk, welcome.
Thanks for having us.
We're just thrilled. Thanks for sharing your time with us. Okay, Jen, I'm hopeful that you can just start off by sharing your story. You were diagnosed at a really young age. Share how that all unfolded, please.
Yeah, so it started off with just typical 15-year-old playing actually in provincial volleyball. I was really tired on the court, didn't know what it was. Nothing catastrophic happened. I just went home, a little bit tired at night, ended up waking up on the floor. So I realized that I had passed out. I waited till the morning, told my mom. First thing she said is, "You're probably up late on the phone," which was usual and a typical 15-year-old rebellious self. So we actually waited till the next day, and I told her, "I think something's going on." So we jumped in the car, and we lived, born and raised in Richmond, and we drove down Granville because my pediatrician, who I still was seeing at 15, was at 70th and Granville. We went into the doctor's office. He took a look, and then I started to notice that there were bruises and things that we just didn't realize because, again, it was just 15, playing sports, playing everything. It wasn't anything that we would think would be cancer.
It's so easy, right? When you're in the midst of life and busy to overlook all of these little signs and symptoms that we're all experiencing when we find ourselves in these shoes, but we oftentimes don't tie it all together either.
Totally. And no cancer in my family. Nobody I knew had been sick, especially any young people. So it was complete foreign for me. So it ended up that they said stop at the first hospital. So we stopped at Children's. And the only reason we stopped at Children's was because it was closest. And it was, I was 15. And as you know, the cutoff at that time was 15 years old. They took me into Emerge, did a blood test. And within 2 hours came in and told me that I had leukemia. It was everywhere in my body. And we had to start treatment right away. I went right up into operating room to get ports in for my treatment, and next day started chemo.
So pause for a sec. You just went over a ton. Life stands still so fast, and you're just so instantly blindsided with leukemia. Do you remember how you felt in that time, Jen?
Yeah, you know what? Frankly, like, it wasn't a big deal because I didn't know any different. It was, okay, you're sick. Great. What do we need to do to fix this? There was never, any of the side effects were never explained to me. Any of the, the chances of survival or not survival never explained to me. So to me, it was, okay, you're sick. Let's get better. And that was it. Unbeknownst to me, my parents in the other room are hearing every side effect under the sun and then being told chances are, around the 7% mark. To me, it was just, okay, I'm sick. How am I going to get better? Until you start getting really sick, and then games change. The game changer really happens while you're in hospital going through that.
And how did you cope with all that then at just 15?
Well, I think number one is I've grown up with huge faith. So church has always been a big part of our lives, and I continued to lean on that along with my family. My parents were both in the airline industry, so we had a huge group of people who were supporting my parents as well. But I think for me, just coping was taking one day at a time. And my mom has always been, in our family, we do things with, hey, if you can't take the day on, you take an hour on. If you can't take an hour on, you take a minute on. And it's just moment to moment and getting through those. But again, I think my thought process of dealing with it was like, how can I get out of here? Because it's March. I want to get back to school and finish out my year. So I think my
right on that. I remember that. I remember that same mantra almost, right? Like the thought of getting through the day was too much to handle sometimes with all of the unimaginable indignities that we can face on that journey. And sometimes you do have to break it down to the next hour, but frankly, sometimes you have to break it down to the next minute. I remember like sometimes screaming in my head, like nobody could hear me, but just, I had this like personal power statement from my whole story of go fighters go. It was how I explained cancer to my kids. And my 4-year-old, when I was first diagnosed, as I was leaving for the hospital, was like, go fighters go, mama. And that was always like my mantra, whenever I didn't think I had the strength to persevere or to hold on, I would just repeat that. And it would always orientate me towards my North Star in what I was fighting for, where I was going, my direction. No matter how grim today was, I would picture myself as this thriving mama, in years to come. But sometimes, gosh, I would scream this out and finally I'd have the strength to carry on for literally, sometimes it was only a minute. Sometimes it was a day, sometimes it was a bit more before I'd have to scream it all out in my head all over again. And so you're right. That's a really important piece. Like really break it down, like set your goal just for a minute, reset after that minute. Really important.
Because your goal of today may be different tomorrow. My mom did let me, I did have a potty mouth. I don't know necessarily if that's totally changed, but I did. My mom would let me scream, yell, swear. She's like, you got 1 minute, and I could yell in my pillow and this is not fair. And, it starts to just weigh on you because I was like, why me? Like, hold on. I didn't do anything. I wasn't the drinking, wasn't the drug, wasn't the, I'm healthy. I play sports. I do all of that type of stuff.
Did everything right, quote unquote, right. Yeah.
Yeah. And the fact is you start to get mad, and then my mom's like, okay, get mad, but cancer cannot control everything. Cancer is not everything to you every single day.
I love that. Like
rise up on it.
You're so lucky to have had her by your side in that sense, because so few people are encouraged on this path with cancer or whatever hardship we're facing to be really real about how brutal these hardships and life's hard days can really be. And they're like, oh, stay positive, keep a good attitude. But you just, before, I believe wholeheartedly, and I learned this lesson the hard way, before we can stay positive and have an optimistic view of our future, we have to be able to let that out and be really real about how hard it is right now. But there are very few people, I find, in our support systems and even in the medical realm that will let us be really real without wanting to prescribe antidepressants or anything else, right? And that ability just to get mad or sad or angry or whatever it may be, it's like a healing process in itself. And surrounding yourself with those people that encourage that, I think, is just so important. So that's great that she was supporting that at such a young age.
Yeah.
Kudos to your amazing mama.
Great mom, great dad, great brother, everybody. That was just the mantra in our house. You know, like you said, it depends on what people grow up with, but you know,
we actually also talked about that. We actually talked about that on our last show. It's funny you said, because this 11-year-old leukemia warrior was on, and her mom was saying how difficult it was for her to tolerate any kind of pokes or getting access, right, with IVs or injections. And, you know, she had to take back her power, because at first she would kick and scream. And her mom just said, you know, yell. Get it out. You can scream, you can just get it out. And so that was a really important tool for her too. So I think that's really important for our whole audience to really hear, be really, really real about how difficult this path is.
Right.
And those potty mouth. Yeah, because I've adopted it too quite a bit, I swear, since my cancer journey. And they do say, here's the perk for us, Jen. They do say that those of us who perhaps use such language have a higher emotional IQ. So we'll EQ. Sorry. So we'll go with that.
We'll go with that for sure. For sure.
Okay.
Oh God. If it's an IQ, then I'm going to be an Einstein, for crying out loud.
We'll start the trend, okay?
Yeah, exactly. So that was really kind of the younger years of going through treatment. And for me, of course, the journey then took a swift turn about midway through my treatment. I just was getting worse. I was getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And I just couldn't turn the corner. I felt I couldn't turn the corner anymore. So I had.
How long was it into your journey?
About 3.5 months.
Okay.
Yeah, 3.5 months. And then I asked my parents to go to alternative medicine that we had heard from in the States, which would be, we'll have to do that podcast another day, because that would take a whole hour of explaining. But decided that I wanted to do a treatment outside of the hospital, which was very progressive, let's just say.
Touch on that a little bit, Jen. What did you do at that time?
What we did was, I was completely hooked up, had 8 machines going, and it was about 10 p.m. at night. My dad was there, because my dad would always overnight, which was very unusual, because usually the moms are staying at the hospital. My dad, for sure, daddy's little girl, so dad stayed with me, and I said, yeah, I think I got to get out of here. And he was like, okay, I think it's bedtime. Let's just call the nurses. And the nurses came in, and I said, yeah, I think I'm ready to leave. And they said, no, we'll get your sleeping meds. We'll just get you calm. I said, oh no, I'm totally calm. It's just, I'm going to need some help to get all of my tubes out. I had a feeding tube. I had catheter in. I had absolutely everything. So at that time, I said, okay, well, we got about 10 minutes. Are you guys going to help me or not? And the process was, no, we're not going to help you. So I helped do it myself. I removed all of my stuff and jumped in the car, and we went back to Richmond, to my mom using the 4-letter word when we got home, wondering why I was home from the oncology ward. And I just told her that I just didn't feel that I could do it anymore. And the next morning we were brought back in to talk to the psychologist, talk to our oncologist. And I have to say, my oncologist at that time was Dr. Wu at Children's. And he came in welled up, just saying, if it's me, we'll give you another doctor. It must be me you don't like. And I was like, absolutely not. I think you're amazing. I love working with you guys. This is just not for me anymore. So a lot of releases later, a lot of paperwork later, a few psych tests later, and I left and went to alternative medicine in the States. And I should say that it wasn't alternative. It was literally from a farmer. And did that treatment, and then went into remission almost 3 weeks later.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you knew, like, inherently we know what our bodies need somehow, I think, on this path.
Right.
And I think that's a really important point that Jen's talking about, because we really have to be our own best advocates, right, along this journey. Everyone else in the background, our healthcare team, everybody, there are supports, but at the end of the day, we need to be the hero in our own story and really quiet all that noise and tune into what it is that we believe will create the biggest change in our bodies. And Jen followed her heart on that, and look at the success that she attained. It's remarkable. Jen, can I ask a question? Would you recommend chemotherapy? Would you recommend this trial of chemotherapy, or would you recommend others to go straight to natural alternatives from your experience?
From my experience, no. I for sure 100% believe in traditional medicine. There's no question. I do believe that there can be things hand in hand. And I think it really comes down to the doctor that you're working with and the situation, because every situation is different. You're talking about 15-year-old with AML, with no priors. My body hadn't lived essentially, let's say, life or of its ups and downs and that type of stuff. So for me, the alternative medicine was always in conjunction, because I was always taken care of by children's. And then, as we know, I relapsed 9 years later. And so I think that people need to go to doctors and listen to what doctors are saying. But I think that it's super important to look at other things that can also help, because I think you can fix somebody, let's say you can fix your cancer, but if every single day you're miserable, your glass is half empty, that will take a toll on your body. But there's people who are happy all the time who also pass. So I think there's a happy medium between both. But no, I for sure believe in our medical system. I think we have an unbelievable medical system here that I've benefited from. But I always think that there are other things that you can do outside to support that. I always went back to the team and said, hey, even herbal things that I wanted to take, I went back and said, okay, this is what I'm thinking. What do you guys think? And it would be yes, no, whatever it is. And a lot of times the reasons was because of side effects. So we have to know what's in your body. If, let's just say, as an example, chemo and radiation and certain drugs are in your body and you get a reaction, we know why that reaction usually is happening. But if you have 50 cocktails going into your body and then something reacts, now we're trying to play catch up. We already are trying to figure out cancer. So we don't want to add too many things, but I've always said, talk to your doctors. And if you trust your doctor, as enough as I do, and I know Erica does.
Yeah, 100%. I think you phrased that really well. And I ask it in particular because of my own story and how I was given this 2-month terminal prognosis. I hadn't even responded to salvage chemotherapy and was denied all further medical care moving forward at that time, even upon seeking a second opinion from Fred Hutch, a leading leukemia institute in the United States. Hence, I then pursued any and everything in the natural healthcare realm, which very much resonated with me as a sports chiropractor in my professional pursuits. People now, fast forward, now that I've survived everything I have, people always say, oh, I bet you don't think anyone should do chemotherapy. And it's the exact opposite from that. I would leave no stone unturned. I was nursing my youngest son at the time, having had 2 babies. There's no stone I wanted to leave unturned. I would pursue any and everything and work as a team with my physicians. And I still do so the same today. I'll advocate for myself and the things that I think that are important for my own health. And usually my team agrees, but there are some things that they're like, no, this just won't jive, Erica. And I respect them. And then they'll respect me at different points as well. And so it does get to be this collaborative team effect, but you do need to use your own strong voice, do your own education, do your own research. And Jen, you're an excellent example of all of this. Okay, so you were thriving after you attained this glorious remission. You have thriving for 9 years. Okay. And what were you doing?
My life.
Yep. And you go on with your life. And then 9 years later, what happens?
I'm snowboarding on grouse with my ex-boyfriend and hit my head. And it was the first time I'd snowboarded. I just said, you know what, just because I've had leukemia in the past, let's stop by the hospital just to double check it's not a concussion. I didn't end up going to VGH. I went down to another hospital just because it was late at night. I still remember they did blood work. Everything was good. They said, no problem, no concussion. So great. I do wear a medical alert bracelet. So, they knew kind of my history, that type of stuff. And I got up the next morning, went back to university. I was going to CAP at the time. And I got a knock on the door. And it was the dean and the head of our program, and said, can we talk to Genevieve in the hallway? And for anybody that knows me, school was, let's say, not the most easy in high school. I went to quite a few high schools. I didn't walk the same path. I went to 4 high schools, be it, for everything under the sun. So I was like, oh, great. Now I'm getting kicked out of university. This is perfect. Not even a thought in the world. And they said, would you meet your parents at VGH? I said, oh, okay, sure. Why do I need to go? And they said, oh, well, something came back with your blood work. We don't know, but you're going to have to go down to VGH. No problem. Pull up to VGH. I still remember going into the front, and they said, oh, no, you have to go to the bone marrow transplant. And I'd never had a bone marrow transplant. Why am I going to the bone marrow transplant? But again, it was just also very different being treated at Children's. Happy, white walls, everybody's happy, coffee machines going, and very different when you go into an adult's essentially caregiving. Went in, and I met Dr. Nantel. Walked in, and he said, I sat down, and he goes, we're going to have to do a back aspiration. And I said, no, I don't need that. And he's like, no, I think we need to double check your counts. And I said, okay, I'll make you a deal. It's my first deal with him. I said, let's do blood one more time, and if it's bad, then we'll do the back, because I know what the back feels like. I already have 6 scars. I don't want another one. So he said, okay. 30 minutes later came in. He said, okay, the blood's still very off. Are you, we need to do a back. And I said, okay, hold on. Before you even do this, like, why am I here? No clue. And he's like, oh, no, 100% you have leukemia. It's back. We just need to know in what form. And I was, hold on. And that was it. And so I knew at the time I had to call, friends and family and my boyfriend at the time. And
okay, were you in tears at this point? Are you on autopilot? What's going through?
I'm in tears looking at my mom in complete shock, just in his office, just the office room. So not around everybody, just be like, there's no way this is happening. There's no way. And again, 9 years is a lifetime, especially from 15 to 24. It's not even around. So they said, again, we should get you into surgery right away. And I said, absolutely not. I'll see you tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., but not tonight. So I went home, I drank wine, I had sushi, a lot of sushi, and just prepared for the next morning. And next morning, I think, again, it hadn't really hit me until I get in, and then up to the ward I go, that you can't leave. It's not like going for walks or something. That was just that evening. So again, it was
I felt like a prisoner against my will, like that I was imprisoned against my will.
Oh yeah. And the first 48 hours that you're in the room, in the room. I mean, I have to say, I do love our view from VGH, and I got a good one. I had the helipad right below me. So at least I had something to look at, but 48 hours, you don't leave. And then it's all right, what are we going to do? And with mine, it was the same AML, just again, treatment had really progressed, but it was the same treatment I got hit with chemo to start. And that was just 3 times stronger than what I had before.
And how did you respond this time, Jen?
10 times worse. I was sick right out of the gate. So nausea right out of the gates. At that moment, I didn't eat. I think I was tube fed for about 45 days. Until the day I was able to eat and get out of there is when I heard I could get a day pass.
Just for our audience listening, like, leukemia is a really brutal journey. Like, I remember spending most of my days in a fetal position, lying on my bed, just vomiting. I didn't even have the energy to get up. I was covered in bruises. People would walk in and they're like, why do you have bruises all over your forearms and all over your shins? But it was because I spent days on end just in that same position. Like, it's so brutal, all that you go through. You feel like there's no part of you left inside on that path, and you're just like a shell of what you used to be. And it can be really hard to hold on and envision that you're going to come back. I had this our same physician, Dr. Nantel, had introduced me to this wonderful woman, Mary, who was like this bright, shining angel in my doorway at the time. And she walked in on a day that I was in septic shock, bad day, right? Not responding to any of these chemotherapy regimens, bald as bald could be. And she came and she grabbed a chair and brought it right up close to my bed, dressed in like the whole alien outfit too, because when people would come to see us, they would have to be masked, gloved, like, you feel like you're just like, it's a really surreal experience. Anyhow, she looked at me and she said exactly what I just said there. Like, you're going to feel like there's nothing left of you inside, but just hold on, because you will come back, and she was leaving that visit with me, and she was heading down the street to go to BC Women and Children's Hospital to meet her firstborn grandchild. And for me, that was like my whole inspiration, because she had walked through my path years ago with the salvage chemotherapy and a needed bone marrow transplant. And for me, instantly, that perspective for me shifted. And I then said, okay, I can do this, right? I'm going to be this fit little granny one day walking down the seawall, pushing my grandbabies. And she did that for me. But I literally connected with everything she said on that sense of, I felt like there was nothing left of me. Sure, if I survived, would I ever come back to myself? And that can be a really hard time to hold on to. And so for our audience who's in the same boat, just all I can say is hold on. You are in.
It does get better. There's never, like you. And again, I think it's really great to hear, with the third time with Kirk's perspective, because I know how I felt. I can't imagine how, the support system feels, because you can't do anything. And just all day, every day. For me, it was nausea. I did have a couple, I was the youngest person on the ward again. I had quite a few people on the ward, but our ward was 12 when I came in, and 3 days later, it was like 4. So that then, throws you back on just like, okay, like, what am I doing this for? Like, am I actually going to get through? Am I going to, am I going to thrive? I guess the word is, or forget about thriving. Am I just going to not ever feel sick?
Yes.
So, for me, I was very lucky with having a brother who was a perfect match, the only brother that I had. And he was in basketball nationals in the East. So they had to fly him out, and he did, the 5-day prep of chemotherapy, the lethal chemo that they call it. And then we did the transplant. And like you said, everybody knows, you just wait. Ticking time bomb, you're either going and getting better or you're not. You're going to palliative, and that's it. So I think the kind of how was I coping? You're so meted up. You have so many things going on. It was just, let's get to that kind of day. But fast forward, 30 days, I said, okay, what can I do to get a day pass? What can I do to get out of here? And they said, well, you got to eat. You got to eat something. I said, all right, do I just have to keep it down? And they said, yeah, you just have to keep it down. I said, all right, okay, let's go get a McDonald's hamburger. Like, no, Genevieve, like, you haven't eaten in like 45 days. I was like, it's okay, it'll stay down. I hit that cheeseburger. Maybe why I like cheeseburgers every time I'm sick once in a while. Not the healthiest thing, but they said there's no way it's staying down. Well, it stayed down, and I had a day pass, so that was all.
Hilarious. I did the same with a Vera's burger, and they were like, "No, you're not going to be able to do this." And I'm like, "I'm going to show you."
Yeah.
I don't know how I did it that day, but anyhow,
get it out of there. So that was kind of the second, and then going into the third, when I had met my husband, because my relationship in the past also were affected by, when I say cancer, it was affected by the after effects of cancer, of not being able to have children and not be able to, and like in a relationship to where that had been communicated, but when it came to the forefront, that was unfortunately what somebody wanted. They wanted their own children, and I was never going to be able to provide that. So for me, very, very lucky, because I ended up meeting my husband, and it was very interesting, because there's very, the start of the conversations when I had first met Kirk was, I didn't grow up in a hockey family. I knew about hockey. I knew the name, but I didn't know, anything about it, or, when we were talking, I'd never gone to hockey games, and my parents clearly couldn't afford it when we were young to go to hockey games. So when I met Kirk, I remember asking him, just so you know, like, I am a cancer survivor. I've had cancer twice at that time, and I'm not able to have kids. And, I'm a non-drinker. If I drink, it's very little. And he's like, okay, great. It was it's like, yeah, but there's many things that you can do. So, I mean, that was, of course, I fell in love with him very quickly. So it was very easy, just because it was a safe space. I didn't have to explain that I was broken or I was different. It was just, no, you're a survivor because you do this, And so that was kind of our journey, not thinking that we'd have to go through cancer together. But 6 months into our relationship, I was having back pains. Thought it was just from working out. Again, nothing had happened since then. So we're talking another 10 years went by. And Kirk had said, you really need to go get that checked out. You need to go and get an MRI. And I said, it's fine. It's nothing. Like, I know when I'm sick. I know when, that exhaustion or something happened. Went and talked to Dr. Nantel again. Dr. Nantel had said, okay, maybe we'll do some testing, and Kirk really pushed it. Kirk is the only reason I went and did it, because I was like, there's no reason. I don't need to. This is ridiculous. And he goes, just do it.
Having been through so much, we can often undervalue what we're going through at that time.
Totally. And so
good for you, Kirk.
Kirk got me in, and unbeknownst to us, there was a 6 by 5 centimeter tumor completely blocking my adrenal gland entirely. They said the adrenal was in complete failure. They said, you're not like, going crazy or like high sugars or high, you're exhausted or high salt, or you're not wanting anything out of the ordinary. And I said, no. And so they said, okay. We found out when we were actually at the NHL awards, and we had been walking around, and I remember because we had this little tiff or disagreement we're in this Venetian area where they had those the Venetian, wherever it was in Vegas, and we were sitting down, and Dr. Nantel called. He doesn't usually call me. He'll text or he'll email.
Yeah.
And I just said, okay, good or bad news? He's like, both. I said, okay, bad first. He's like, it's a tumor. It's aggressive, and you need to make sure you don't fall, get hit, get anything like that. I said, okay. He's like, but I think we can get it. Just come home on Monday. So that was probably the hardest, was hanging up the phone and telling Kirk. So it's great to have his perspective, because at that, I said, to me, that was like, okay, we have options. We're good. Came back, and they did a full removal of the adrenal. Didn't even know you could have no adrenal. Well, you're a second adrenal. And no relation to my leukemia. Zero. Said it was nothing that had happened, because of side effects or nothing like that. And I said, oh, well, might as well go and get a lottery ticket, because I'm getting really, really good at these kind of wins. So went through, and at the end of it, I said, okay, so nothing has to happen. No, like post-treatment, anything. They said, no, just go home and keep living. So that was the positive.
You're amazing, Jen. You're amazing in every way. I want to say just a couple things, because you went over a lot there. I just want to break it down for our audience. Jen's amazing brother, again, was her incredible donor for her much needed bone marrow transplant, which a bone marrow transplant is like, quote unquote, the cure, right? To prevent against, to prevent against relapse from this very aggressive cancer of leukemia. And so ideal donors are generally male, below or of the ages from 18 to 35. This is actually how Genevieve and Kirk and I all met, was at this event for Hockey Gives Blood, because Jen and Kirk are very active in the giving back realm to the cancer community on every front. And we had mutually attended this great event. And anyhow, Jen's brother is amazing for serving in that role. You too can sign up to be someone's superhero, right? And all you have to do is do a little swab online, and maybe you'll get a call to be someone's superhero one day. My superhero rose to help from halfway around the world in Germany in my time of need. He was a complete stranger. And he's this young mountaineering adventurer with the last name of Hoppe. For me, it means hope, like with all the hope that he had brought me. So sign up, give blood. Both Jen and I have received countless transfusions along this path. And the bone marrow transplant, just give life. I've also received, obviously, new lungs, and from having rejection in my lungs from the bone marrow transplant. So just give love or give life. Well, it's also giving love, really. I also want to say to our audience, just to really explain how incredible you are quickly before we move to Kirk, because through all of this, Jen has previously modeled professionally. She had attained her degree in business. She has now since worked with the Yellow Pages, attaining all of these awards for her amazingness in sales. So she has lived this full and rich life through it all. And she is such an inspiration. So take tune to that note, because we really can live through this at the same time. And Jen, you also talked about when you were dating, that this cancer story, and for myself as well, right? I'm now divorced. 6 weeks after I was finally home from hospital, my husband chose to divorce. And so now back in the dating world and just in life in general, like our greatest strength, which is everything we've survived, and thrived, and the resilience we've gained from that, can also be our greatest weakness in other areas. And for me too, I feel that in the dating realm in some ways, because it's like so much explaining, like this is my health journey, this is where I'm at. Kirk, tell me, you first meet this Wonder Woman. Tell me what you thought about everything.
Well, it was at the time we were both coming off some kind of relationship, but it was during her she's on the Cuccione Foundation, on a board member, and there was a golf tournament that was being played up in the interior, and she sat on the board of that as well, because all the monies were going back into the Cuccione Foundation. And I talked to her on the phone prior to meeting her, because she was calling all the so-called celebrities for all their sizes and of course travel arrangements and what have you. So that's about it. And then I get to the tournament, and it's the night before the golf tournament, and there's like a cocktail party reception, fundraiser kind of a deal. And she just came walking around the corner with this flowing outfit on, and I said, nobody even told me who it was. I said, that's got to be her, just from what I talked to her about. And then of course the person that introduced me to her, and it was his tournament. So this is Genevieve, and she's one of my board members for the golf tournament, and the one you talked to on the. And then we just kind of, had fun through the rest of the weekend, and then kind of didn't really talk for about 6 months after that.
Okay.
Because so, which is a funny story. Hers is probably a different perspective than mine. But she wanted to meet the final morning before everybody took off to go home for a coffee. And, I was not having it. I was, coming off a fun night the night before, and I wanted to have a little lay-in before I had to drive home back to Vancouver, because we were up in Kelowna. And Genevieve was lucky enough that she was taking a private jet home with some other people, so she was all excited.
Ooh la la, Jen.
And so but then she was like, "What do you mean you don't want to come down and have some coffee?" I said, "Well, I would love to, but I'm a little bit tired right now, and I have to drive 4.5 hours or 4 hours, and I want to be a little focused on what I'm doing." So that happened, and I think she was beside herself, because I don't think she's really ever been turned down before, but yes, and then we had some I guess indirect I guess meetings, not really, I guess, for about 6 months, and then finally I just kind of reached out to her Christmas of that year, just by a text, and just said hey, and didn't know where she was, didn't know what she was doing for Christmas. I was back up in Kelowna with my goddaughter lives up there, so I was up with the family up there hanging out, and we kind of connected via text. And then come the new year, we got together through her arranging for a surprise 50th birthday party for a family member of theirs.
Aw, well, for all of our audience, I just want to say, like, you can hear how smitten they are with each other, but when you see these two, like, up close and personal, gosh, they are just head over heels, and it's like the cutest. Like, they are just destined to be together, these two. I just adore this. Kirk.
Genevieve keeps saying that we should do like a TV show. I said, I don't know about that. People will have a total different perspective if we do a TV show. It is a little goofy. I mean, it's not a secret. There's a little bit of an age difference there, so we have fun with it, and there are definitely some funny and interesting moments. That's for sure.
Kirk, did her health journey, did it hold you back at all?
Not at all. I heard it. I really didn't even think about it, to be quite honest with you. She's, obviously a super healthy looking woman, and goes about her business like nothing has really ever happened. You would never even know. She lives life to the fullest, without doubt. She's positive 100%. She's 100 miles an hour all the time. Don't get me wrong. She sometimes needs to pull the reins in a little bit and relax, but that's just her character, and that's how she's always been, and that's why she's where she's at. And it's, for me, it's something a little different, because I'm quite the opposite. I'm quite the lollygagger. I don't I don't like anything. I'm not a big speed freak, or I don't want to take chances or any of that kind of stuff, where she's all about jumping out of an airplane or going to the racetrack and test driving cars and skiing. I don't ski, but she loves to ski, and from what I understand, is very good at it. And stuff like that, where I've had my experience playing hockey for so many years, and it's now taken a little bit of toll on my body. So I'd rather just kind of hang out, have my tea time at the golf course, and then that's my wild and crazy excitement.
Well, you're quite the dynamic duo. How did you cope? How did you cope with her diagnosis with the adrenal tumor? And obviously your relationship is still quite new. How did you cope with that, and how did you best support her through that as a young couple?
That's it was a little shocking, but not really. I mean, listen, it's in her body. This brutal disease is in her body. No, there's no doubt about it. I believe it's in all our bodies. At the end of the day, if nature doesn't get you first, unfortunately, cancer is going to take us down in some form. But it was a challenge, another roadblock for her to get over. And as she talked earlier about her family, amazing support support in her family. Her mom is a saint. I'm like head over heels, not with all of them, but her mom, I just love her mom. We share a lot, I think, in common. But her dad is amazing. Her brother is awesome, and his fiance, and now their little child. You couldn't ask for anything more, because they're definitely a family. And when I mean that, they're a family. They do everything all the time together, and they're 100% 2 feet in. So I knew that was going to be a great thing for her. So it was a relief for me to know that everybody else was right behind me, or I was behind them. Just strength in numbers, right? Giving her that power and that strength to get through it. But you're always thinking in the back of your mind, what if, and you try to blank out all the negative thoughts, but it's not easy. I lost both my parents to cancer at a very young age, 6 months apart. So, and then recently, had an uncle that passed, and then an aunt that was going through it. So it's something that you're often wondering, what the heck, what's with this cancer thing, and why can't we find a cure for it, or not just for in the leukemia or the child cancer, but for everybody. I mean, there's enough money there's enough money that gets pumped into it. But I had that explained to me on a plane trip by somebody from the Mayo Clinic, going, yeah, it's true, but when you think you've hit, or you've got the magic potion for it, something else, another cell comes out of there, and you have to deal with that. So it's an ongoing thing, obviously. So variation, yes. And
yeah,
but we go in, we're told what needs to be done. You sit around for the operation, and we're all kind of drinking me anyways, about 100 coffees, and getting happy thoughts in our minds. Everything's going to be good. You try to be as strong as possible for everybody around you, and
I
then
think you
hope
both
for the best.
I think you both focus a lot on living, even throughout
Yes.
the cancer journey, you put
Yeah.
your focus on living throughout it
100%.
all. And I think
Yeah.
that's when you talked about, you try to quiet these thoughts that you have and the fears.
Yeah.
I think from watching you too, I think you do so by that focus of shifting your
Yeah.
focus to where you're going, what your direction
Yeah.
is. And I really very much admire that. I think you guys are destined to be together for so many reasons. And Jen, you're so lucky to have Kirk and vice versa. And Kirk, I will say, on our paths, we can get ourselves so far, right, Jen?
Yeah.
And then we can get ourselves through, but there's almost like an end point. And then at this end point, then we really look for, it's almost like we surrender because we've got nothing else to give at this point. And then it's like, we look to our faith above, we look to our support systems to help us get us through that lingering bit, and
Yeah.
I know you've really been such a great support for Jen and all those caregivers out there. Like, I just want to give like a huge shout out to the role of the caregivers, because I know here in Canada's healthcare system, I know personally very well, our healthcare system is very reliant on those caregivers in that support role. And I think you're both incredible, but that really needs to be mentioned, that role of the caregiver.
I totally agree. I mean, it's I can only imagine what they go through day in, day out when they go to work. I don't know if I was fortunate enough or to go in and see these families, whether it be Canuck Place or it be Children's Hospital. It's incredible how strong these kids are, or these teenagers or young adults are, that have this disease, and you're walking in there trying to put on the happy face and make everybody feel good and pump them up, but in turn they're doing it to you, because they're living it daily, and they're giving you a message, say, listen, I'm okay. You can be normal with me. You can tell jokes, funny jokes. You don't have to come in here and watch what you say or pretend that you don't know what's going on. They just said, just listen, we're living with this, and while I'm here and we're doing, and you're here, let's just have a good old time. And
or only talk about cancer, like you said.
Yeah, exactly.
Cancer isn't everything.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I think the extension of that with the workers, I think Kirk's talking about just like healthcare workers, but I think what Eric is saying and what I'm saying is like the partners, the brothers, the sisters, the parents, the friends that really step in and become. And I don't think they ever know how much that means. I think, Kirk and I go about things a very different way when people are sick. I'm all like, no, we call them. We call them and they'll tell me if they don't want it. I think Kirk's, we'll use the word generation. Says, no, they'll call you when they need something. Well, guess what?
Well, no, you always want to reach out, obviously, but I think it's important to not just do the initial reach out. It's like when somebody passes away, a family member, and you're always there to help the rest of the family, and it lasts about a week, and then and then it's like maybe a year later you go, oh, how's things going? I think you have to stay on top of that. I think it's important to be there. You have to be there all the time, but check in once in a while. But the same with our situation here. Listen, we walk around and the only time it comes to my mind, if she has if she's feeling the sniffles or maybe has a bruise like you talked about, that's when the alert goes off. Oh, okay. Now I start thinking, okay, what is it? And we need to get this checked, or we'll monitor it. But other than that, we live a pretty fun life and darn good life.
We sure do.
And we don't even think about it or discuss her health. Well, I shouldn't say that. We think about it. Think about my health. I'm always making sure I'm up to date on all my doctor appointments and male checkups that everybody should be doing as a male, and
being proactive,
100% proactive,
so
100%. But your health, I mean, we're only on this earth once, right? And you might as well.
Yeah.
You might try and make it last as long as you can, but have a good time
with as much vitality as we can
right.
at the same time. Yeah. Yeah,
That's right.
I really admire this. Tell us quickly all the support, all the ways that you're involved in cancer support groups. Tell us, just highlight ever so quickly with the two of you, with the Canucks. Tell us everything that you're doing all together.
Well, our Canuck for Kids Fund is obviously huge within the community and branches out to a whole bunch of different things. But whether it's the Children's Hospital, Canuck Place is huge, obviously. The Cancer Society, Canadian Cancer Society, which I've done some stuff with, and Genevieve as well, the Cuccione Foundation, which is very dear to our heart, and especially Genevieve's, and you know, getting to know that family myself over these last 7 or so years has been incredible, and what the journey they went on and they continue to go on to try and get a cure for this brutal disease.
Mm-hmm. You're both incredibly remarkable. I know we're short for time, Jen.
Don't worry.
I want to thank you both for being on the show. And I have a really big announcement to share to our audience that the lovely Genevieve McLean is going to be joining us as co-host for our upcoming podcast. So super excited to share
News
that.
to me. News to me.
So stay tuned, everyone. You're going to get to hear a lot more from her. Kirk, Genevieve, thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here today. You've really inspired a lot of people. So thank you very, very much.
No problem.
Well, thanks for what you're doing. This is an awesome thing that you're podcasting out to the people, because I think it's very important for the world to know, and to listen to these stories of survivor stories that you have on your podcast. I think it's only inspirational and will give hope to a lot of people.
That means a lot, Kirk. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I hope to see you both at the Health and Happiness Summit in January. Risers and Thrivers, thank you for being with us today. Rise today, my friends. All the best.
Thank you.